doing?
It wasn't even, it was literally laying. I can't even say it was like preventing any blood from, but like every bump we would hit, I would feel blood just coming out of me because they really didn't have any pressure going on there.
Hello and welcome to Healing Trauma Mamas. I'm your host, Madon Wingo. Thank you for joining us as we share in our stories and experiences of healing from childhood traumas and birth traumas. Listen as we discuss our struggles, our failures, our strengths and our victories, and all those lessons we've learned along the way. Hello, Healing Trauma Mamas. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've got another wonderful story or journey that we're going to share today. And I'm really looking forward to it because I know I've reiterated this over and over on the podcast, but we learn and grow by sharing each other's struggles and our um, lessons that we have learned. And when we grow in community, we learn by sharing our stories. And so I really want this to be a place that we're able to share that. We're able to be raw and real and able to really just glean from each other's experiences and help each one of us as we're going about our amazing walk that we all get to have on this earth. And we're growing and we're learning all together. And so I'm just real thankful for everyone who comes on the podcast and shares, and for all of you listening. And may you just get some beautiful things out of the story that's going to be shared today. That being said, I'm going to welcome Lindsay onto the podcast today. We both have our coffees in hand, ready to sit down and just have a chat with y'all. Kind of really typical of what Lindsay and I have done in the past, just sitting down with our coffee and chatting. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation that we're going to get to have. So, Lindsay, would you like to just introduce yourself? Maybe say just a couple of things?
Yeah, sure. My name is Lindsay Krill. I have two babies now, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. My 1-year-old that Madon was my midwife for birthing him, and yeah, we live on a farm. We call it our useless farm because we're vegetarians. We don't really eat the animals, but we still enjoy them. And yeah, we love just spending time together as a family out here. Yeah, it's fun. So
Awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, and you're a more local mom getting to come and talk on the podcast, which is
w-
kind of fun. So
yeah,
it's neat because sometimes we're interviewing from all over the world, and it's neat to have somebody local.
that's
Um,
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, let's kind of go into things, Lindsay. So you and I know each other a little bit because I did get the privilege of being your midwife, and which was an awesome experience. And we've got to interact outside of midwifery a little bit too, which has been a blast for me, a beautiful blessing
Yeah.
to me, which has actually been great. That wasn't a plug; it just this is the truth. So I would love to kind of start off just maybe just a little bit about you. Do you want to share a little bit about growing up? Share about your journey a little bit in the early years?
Sure. Let's see. I feel like if I start so far back, we will be here forever.
You
So
want me-
I will start with, you know, my journey before having my fertility journey before having my daughter, who's 3. I had, 3 miscarriages before her, and the first one lasted, uh, uh, till 9 weeks. And that one, I, did have a midwife, or birthing center that I was, going through for that birth or for that pregnancy. And, had just finished my 8-week appointment, and then the very next week, I miscarried. And, that was, like, devastating, because I was already waiting till my 30s, that was unplanned. That was an unplanned pregnancy. And I had already known I was gonna be a mom in my 30s, but, my first one to be a miscarriage, I was just, like, gutted, even though I know it happens, now I know that. But then the next 2 happened kind of back to back, and that was kind of silly of me to try to do back to back, but, I was kind of like okay, maybe that was a fluke. Let's try again. And after the third one, and that one was, that was an intentional pregnancy. I was just like, I mentally, emotionally cannot handle um, another miscarriage. And we are very crunchy. My husband and I, like, that's what we kind of bonded on when we started dating over 10 years ago. We're just kind of like old school hippie people. And so, yeah, I was like, okay, something's, oh, it didn't help that I was a vegetarian, right? And so I have my entire family being like, you need to eat meat. Like, something's wrong with you is kind of the messaging I was just kind of getting from certain people in my life. And yeah, I was like, okay, well, now I have to accept that I do need a little bit of help here from the Western medical side of things. And so I got my hormones tested and I was low on progesterone. And I thought, okay, I'm willing to try again with progesterone. And that one worked. And that 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 pregnancy carried full term, obviously. And but my choice for that pregnancy was to uh, have an unassisted birth, and that was very um, taboo and unusual. I feel like definitely in my family, I would be the only one that would have ever gone that route for her birth choice. And I was actually I had a friend that had kind of showed me that, like, free birth world, and she had done it successfully, and I'm just like, "Yeah, I don't need any help." And I went into it with total beginners, I don't know, just almost naive, about, my body, and it's true, like, there is truth to these things that, like, of course, I still believe that our bodies are meant to birth babies, like, naturally, and it doesn't have to be this, completely intervened, um, experience. Like, I still believe that even, you know, the things to come for this birth, um, happen, and we'll go over that, but, yes, it's true that, our bodies are meant to birth, but it's also true, and I feel like I've learned this on the other side of my daughter's birth, that, um birth is just you can really count on the only thing you can count on is birth is unpredictable. And and there are some things that you can do now that I know, that can like really improve your chances of having a successful vaginal birth, like positions, that your baby is in. I know that they people can have like I keep giving caveats here because birth is so um, you know, it's it can be done like, babies can come out in whatever position they want to. So, I mean, that being said, it's just there's things that you can do that I didn't do in my first pregnancy that can, increase your chances of having an optimal position, and I really strived for that in my second pregnancy because, wow, having an sunny side baby sunny side up baby,
Whew.
I felt 0 contractions in the front side of my body, and I was not prepared for that. I was like, "Where are the contractions that people are talking about?" And all these hundreds of positive home birth stories, you know what I mean? Like, it was just I hadn't really heard a story happening like mine, and so I just kind of felt like, "Wow, this is not what I read was going to happen," right? And so, um, that birth, I labored for 30, 32 hours before I just made the call. I was like, "Yeah, we're going in. We're going to the hospital," which was literally my worst fear of happening. Um, just dealing with the hospital staff, not really understanding my birth choice for that. That was a lot to deal with. At the same time as becoming a new mom, um, that was pretty traumatic. And so, anyways, back up. I'm a horrible storyteller. I go all over the place.
You're
So
doing
feel
great.
free to reel me in if I'm like, you're like, what are you talking about? So anyways, that, my husband takes me to the hospital, and I don't know why I forgot to ask him before this, why did we take our Ford Transit van? Why did we not take our truck? I still can't remember why. I think maybe we had a tag out or something. And so we roll up to the
Just a 10-minute
hospital and
drive to the hospital from your
yeah,
house.
yeah, yeah, it's not very far. And so but in the, craziness of it all, my husband, he was stuck by my side the whole time, so he forgot to go back and park the van. So after I had my baby, you know, they came in, they were like, "Hey, is that your van in the front of the hospital?" We're like, "Oh, yeah. Whoops, sorry." Anyways, so that birth resulted in, an unplanned cesarean, and honestly, at that point, I was at a level of fatigue that I had nothing left in me, and I was honestly like, "Just do it. Just do it."
Yeah.
I had no will left, like, to fight that decision, but I did, when I got there, asked if I could have an epidural because all my pain was in my back, and I couldn't get into a position that I felt like would help a sunny side baby come out, and, because it was just
How
like
did you learn
having
baby was sunny side?
do what?
How did you learn
How to
that she was sunny side up?
Oh, sure. So when I got there, obviously they did a, ultrasound, and they said, uh baby is head down, and I forget if it was there then that they said sunny side up or if it was after. I may not have known in that moment she was sunny side up. I wish my husband was here because he has a lot more memory of this than I do. Um, because I was completely out of it during this time. Like, I was on another planet, and I was so tired. But I couldn't get into a position, any optimal position to push a baby out, period, no matter what, even if they were in, like, a perfect position. And I was just like, I felt like my back was broken. And, anyways, they said, "Nope, I can't give you an epidural. It's too late." And so I was like, "All right, I guess I'm just gonna lay here and keep pushing." And her head was starting to crown. And so I thought, "Okay, uh, we can do this," but I did that for another like 2 hours, and then I really had nothing left in me. And, so yeah, they put me in for cesarean, and that went, you know, well. And we didn't know what she was, so that was kinda cool for them to say, "It's a girl," but I already knew it was a girl. I just kinda had a feeling about that. So yeah, she was born super healthy. She had like a 9.9 APGAR score. She was, um, 9 pounds, 3 ounces, beautiful baby girl, healthy,
Yeah.
like, everything went well with her, and that's when I went downhill was, um they said, "Your white blood cell count is really high." And I'm like, "Hmm, that's weird. I don't know why like, I don't feel sick, you know?" And they came back and ran some more testing, and they said, "Well, you have sepsis, staph, in the blood." And so I had to stay in the hospital for, 10 days to recover from that, and then it was going to be longer, but my husband really advocated for me to get treatment at home. And we were able to get a PICC line in my arm to continue the IV antibiotics at home. And so that was rough. That to me was the most traumatic part over a C-section was getting a PICC line. That was awful. I don't ever want to do that again. And I just did that for another couple weeks at home. And while I was healing from my C-section. So yeah, my poor husband, he was like, he was basically my nurse, like more than you would even have to do if you were recovering from a cesarean because um we declined this call. I mean, uh, yeah, it was rough. But yeah, so we waited about I did not after I had her, I said, "I'm done. One and done. I do not want another one after that whole thing." Like, that was traumatic in
It's a
all the
lot.
ways that it could be. And, yeah, it was a lot. And, I also felt like a ton of just, like, shame and, like, "Oh, I failed," I had people in my family telling me, that they weren't comfortable with my birth choices, and I always would say, you know, um, "Well, if anything goes wrong, if I feel like it's not going well, I'm gonna go to the hospital. I'm literally I live right behind it, and, that's not a problem." And, I thought that is exactly what I did, but still, it kind of felt like a an "I told you so" moment, and
Mhm.
then I spent that whole pregnancy being like, "Your body is, like, meant to do this," like, all the positive affirmations, all the positive birth stories, and mine went, like, uh, not that way at all. And, I had to do a lot of work to even, anytime I would talk about my birth, I would just, like, bawl, I would just cry, like, it was, like, a source of pain to, like, remember, my daughter's birth, and that made me really sad because, I felt like there wasn't really a place to kinda share stories like that, that didn't really go to plan, like,
Yeah.
I even like, I was in the free birth community, I even, like, shared my story in there, and I definitely had some interesting responses to my story because I had posted in there that I knew I was going to be giving birth soon, and so people were asking, like, "How did it go?" Because I didn't really wanna go back in there and share it, and so I had enough people asking me how my birth went, so I was just really honest, like, it didn't go well at all. And, baby was healthy, I was so grateful for that, obviously, but, my health took a turn for the worse, and, could not it just didn't go how I imagined it would go. And so I had people saying things like, "How did you not know you had sepsis? Uh, you would have had signs." And that's just not true. I had 0 inclination that I had sepsis. Like, I had no fever at the time. I did end up getting a fevers after I gave birth. Um, I had no fever, and so it I felt normal, I felt fine. I labored for 30 plus hours on my own, and I know that you can be on another planet during labor, so that could have something to do with it, sure, but I I I was I was just like, I didn't feel sick, I just felt normal. And so I definitely spent a lot of time after that birth, like, questioning myself. Like, "Can I trust my body? Can I trust myself?" And so I did a lot of work on that, uh, belief that I can. And not only that, but, yes, our bodies are meant to birth, and I don't wanna do it alone next time. Like, I definitely want a a woman, like, with wisdom in this area to support me because that's how I feel like that's how we did it back in the day. I mean, some people had to give birth alone, but that wasn't typically what women did. They had, like, the town midwife, and they had other women in their family there to support them. And now you were not a traveling midwife when I had my daughter, or else you would have been the first person I called. There was birth centers, but they're an hour and a half away from me, and so I did not wanna drive,
Yeah.
an hour and a half in labor, and I just felt like, "No, I'm close to my hospital here. If anything goes wrong, like I said, I'll transfer," and that's what I did. And at the end of the day, they were great. I had an angel of a nurse, who was the charge nurse, and she really became an advocate for me in that hospital, and she was just amazing. And she said, "I know exactly what you were trying to do. Like, there's nothing wrong with that." She really tried to make me feel comfortable with my choices, even though I ended up there. And yeah, she was amazing. Shout out to her. Could I say her name?
Yeah,
I don't know her last
absolutely.
name, actually.
I
Yeah,
have it written
her
down, but I
name's
don't have it
April.
with me right now.
Yeah, I know, she's amazing. I really need to, like, commend her for some type of, I know that they do, like, awards for nurses, but she
Oh,
was
yeah, I
she was
think the
incredible.
Daisy Award
Yeah.
is the one that you can
Yeah,
send in for.
yeah, I really need to look into that because she was, like, my angel there. And, there were CPS words being thrown around, and she even gave me a heads up, like, "Some people in this hospital are considering calling," and I was just like, "What?" And I'm holding, like, a 2 or 3-day-old baby while I'm nursing her as she's telling me this, and I'm like, "Are you kidding?" And I'm just, crying, like, I did not feel safe there after that. I know she was trying to, warn me. But at the end of the day, herself and other people in that department, in the OB ward, did, you know, have my back in a sense that they did not recommend doing that. And so she was, I think, a huge part of why my experience went so well there. And she
Mm,
was definitely like a women's a woman first, like centered type of care provider. She was amazing. Um, and yeah, I'll never forget her. And so yeah, all of this happened. And then 15 months later, I said, I want another baby. And yeah, so we did try, succeed first time, and we're like, okay, this is happening. And then I got just at that time, I also feel like I didn't even have to search for you, madame. Someone told me your name, and they just knew my story, and they said, "Hey, you should really reach out to uh, a woman I know in Sweetwater. She's starting her midwife practice, and she travels." I'm like, "What? Like this is pie in the sky. Like if I could come up with a midwife of my dreams, it would be you." Your little thing online, and you called me, like, instantly, and I was like, "Whoa." Like, I did not expect to get a call back that fast. And so I just told you my whole birth story, and you listened, and, you were like, and I said, "I wanna go for a VBAC, so, um, like, what do you think?" And, you know, you were game, so, um, and yeah, that pregnancy was
you also got
awesome,
on
it was so
progesterone right
awesome.
away again.
Oh, I did? That's
Yeah.
right, yeah, and that was really and we did test for my progesterone also just to make sure, and it was on the low side, so I'm glad we did that. And, yeah, and then I went to have I enjoyed that pregnancy. It was a lot more active than my pregnancy with my daughter because I didn't have children when I was pregnant with her, and then I did have a toddler to follow around. So I felt like I was just naturally more active. That was great. And I researched everything I could do to prevent a sunny side up baby. And I know that that doesn't always happen. Like I'm aware that's like sometimes it's just going to happen no matter what. But I did not recline ever, like past a certain week. I did not recline. I was not doing it. And I would like hunch forward and do the hammock that you taught me.
Mhm.
And I took like a biomechanics course online, and I just like was hyper aware of how I was moving throughout the day. And that I think that was really helpful. And yeah, just I was also just knowing that if I do end up in that situation again, I just kind of had to face my fears. Like I really wasn't that nervous about going to the hospital again if I needed to transfer because I was going to have. I mean, my husband was a wonderful advocate, but it's nice to have someone besides your husband, you know, be able to help with that. Um, because they're trying to focus on you and the baby and all of that. So, wasn't too nervous about that. So yeah, had a wonderful pregnancy, and then I guess I was 39.
Did you do anything
Mhm.
different in this pregnancy to I mean, obviously, you were really watching on your position for the baby, and you were chasing a toddler around, so and you were nursing
Yeah.
too. So,
Oh yeah,
lots
that's
going
right.
on there.
I was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you did in this pregnancy specifically to really try to set yourself up for success? I know
Mm,
you worked
yeah,
through
that's
some of
a
the
good.
trauma from the first one. We did
Yes,
some processing, and I know you were working on some
we
some
did.
stuff from that too.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Because fears did start popping up, the closer I got of as far as, like, just, like, almost like flashbacks from the first one. And, yeah, I did, about, I don't know, a month or so before, my guest date, um, I started, doing like, reading the hypnobirthing book. I didn't wanna read it too early because I was gonna forget it by the time birth came around, so I made sure to, like, really study it a few weeks before I expected I was going to give birth, and that was really helpful, and because I really did lean on that during labor, with him, and so yeah, I would say mostly that, working on my mindset, just facing my fears, like, yeah, this could happen. But you know what? I've already done it and I've done it before, like that's, I know what to expect. And so that actually made it a little less scary. Like I've done it before. It's fine. And then what else? I think that's really it. I just try to keep myself as calm about it as possible and just, visualize, meditate, pray, and yeah, and I just picked what helped me, I just picked 2 techniques that I wanted to focus on the in the hypnobirthing book because I there's a ton of them in there, and I knew if I was trying to, like, remember a bunch, I would remember 0, and so
Yeah.
I just focused on 2 that I was going to memorize and practice, and those were actually, I think I remembered 1, and so that it was still helpful. So
Good
yeah,
job.
because yeah, when labor starts, it's like everything goes out the window. Like whatever you thought you were going to remember, none of it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's primal at that point.
It is.
For
It
me,
is.
that was my experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And
for a lot of
so
people, that's exactly what it is. There's times when if we know the techniques that you're wanting to focus on, then we can help remind you of those things, and help you with them.
right,
But
yes. Yes.
yeah.
Well, and you offered some, I, I don't know, techniques in there that um like you really taught my husband in the moment how to do the what's it called? The hip squeezes?
Hip squeezes, yes.
Um, yeah, you really solidified that. That was great.
Yep. He did well.
Hopeful for that. Yeah. And so, yeah, and that was another thing. We watched a few YouTube videos on like things that he could be doing as a partner. But I labored a lot in the tub on my first one, and so I didn't really. He didn't really do. He was running and getting me like drinks and things like that, and like fanning me and getting me cold washcloths or whatever, he was like my water boy the first time, but, the second time I wanted him to, like, be more like, okay, like, I I was really just I didn't know what it was gonna feel like because I felt like I had such a not typical experience and, maybe typical for a sunny side up baby, but yeah, like, there was nothing he could have done to relieve that amount of pain that was,
Mhm.
you know, there's that bundle of nerves, right there at your, like, L5 sacrum area, and I had previously had a herniated disc and, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, I had done a in life, but yeah, it definitely came into play when I had a baby pushing on that area, trying to come out,
Yeah.
so that I was trying to avoid that at all costs. And so thankfully with, my son, uh, Isaac, his birth, it did. And, so it was November 5th. It was election day. It was
Oh,
a
yeah. I
very wee
forgot.
hours in the morning for that. And I texted you and I was like, I had been having prodromal labor for a couple of weeks prior, and you've been keeping an eye on me for that. Like there was that app that we used that was really cool where I would start timing my contractions and you would be texting me like, did they stop? I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I forgot to push stop." And so, anyway, that was really neat, and, so, I had gone to the bathroom, one of my, like, middle of the night pee trips, and I thought there was a little trickle on the way, and so I was like, I wanna tell her about that," and then 2 hours later, I go back to sleep. I can't remember if I told you. I honestly can't remember which one happened first. I know I ended up having a big contraction, like, 2 hours later, and I was like, "Oh, it's starting, like, it's happening, like, this is not prodromal labor," and because it woke me up out of a dead sleep, and, um, yeah, things progress. I would say not like super fast. I'm not like I didn't have him in, the next hour or something, but it was starting to increase and you were like, I'll be there in 30. And when you got there, I think I was in the shower already and I was already going to another planet. Like I felt like that was kind of happening a little quicker than last time. And that's one thing I noticed. I don't know. I in other people's birth stories, I would always I'm honestly envious when I hear about, like, they're in labor and they're, like, cleaning their houses and they're, like, folding laundry, taking care of their kids. Like, I don't get any of that. It just goes into, like, active labor immediately. I don't get the
The early lead up.
quiet. I feel like yeah, I didn't feel any of that, like, I'm not it just it's go time, and I did have that with my first 2. And, hers just lasted forever because she was not coming out, very easily. And, anywho, um, so yeah, it picks up from there, and there was oh, yeah, you were like, because it was getting kinda hot in my bathroom. I had, like, my heat vent on. It was, kind of cool in the morning still. It was early November, but still really nice, perfect weather during the day. But since it was so early, I had my heat vent on. Then I had the hot steam of the shower, and I was just feeling really hot because I was in labor, and you're like, "You can go take a walk outside," and I was like, "Oh, yeah, duh, I'm at my house, I can go do that." And so my husband follows me out there, you come out there, and I'm like, "Ah, this is amazing because it was still a little crisp. And, yeah, we all got to watch the sunrise together, that was so nice. I ate my applesauce. So I guess that was my calm before the storm because, like, I did labor out there, but it was uh, it's funny, I'm using the word pleasant to describe it because I look back at pictures that you took of me and I'm like, I look like I'm in pain, but I don't remember being in pain. Like I just don't I remember enjoying it,
Yeah.
being outside. Then there was a lull where, I was just sitting there and kind of meditating and just feeling no contractions whatsoever. It's like my baby gave me a little break before the real show. And
It was
we
beautiful.
went
You both were
uh,
just, like,
it was
meditating together, and the sun was rising,
mhm,
and it was
it was
just like you looked
beautiful.
like you
Yeah.
were definitely just, like, soaking it all up, and yeah, it was really
It
neat.
was amazing. And then things start ramping up, and I'm like, "Ooh, I feel like I need to push. Is it okay? Like, can I start pushing?" And you're like, "Yeah." Like, I don't know why I'm asking, but I have no choice. Like, it's happening. And so,
And you asked
then,
me, "Do
I
I have
feel
to go back inside?"
see, I don't remember some of the
Yeah,
stuff that I said.
and I was like,
Um,
no." And you're like, "Yeah, I don't
yeah.
want to." And I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Okay."
Yeah. Yeah, I did not. I felt like, okay, like, I'm over here by my, we're under my pergola, and there's, like, an L-shaped, couch or outdoor couch, with, cushions, and I'm like, "Okay, it's happening here." You're like, it was a nice cushion to prop my arms up on and lean over and push during that moment, so, yeah. And then you and my husband bring all the birthing supplies out. You had already brought them out because I think you knew it was about to happen before even I knew. Because I remember being aware that you're like, "Okay, can you go grab the things from the bathroom?" And I'm like, "Oh, is it about to happen? Like, is it happening?" And, so then it really did start picking up. And, yeah, um I thought I was giving birth to to her head. I think my husband thought that too. And then it was the bag of waters I gave birth to first, and he was just like, "Oh, it's the head," and then it just exploded. And he was like, "Oh, well, never mind, that's the head." And, like, I remember that vividly. And then, after that, I just remember really having, like, in between pushes, I would have my, like, little thing of honey, and I was, like, slamming honey in between pushes. And, and then he comes out at, like, 11:30ish, 34 or something in the morning. But, yeah, and it was beautiful. And the most perfect birth I could have imagined. I could not believe that I did it, like, I just had my VBAC outside of all places. That wasn't really the plan, it was just so beautiful out there that morning that I just that had to be the place. And then weekly after that, that's when, you were like and I could feel it. I could feel it happening. You're like, "Hey, you're losing a lot of blood." And then I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know what's normal here." You know what I mean? So, but I do feel like a lot of like I feel like gush happening, and it's not really stopping. And so you do your thing. You give me, you're like, "Can I give you this?" I'm like, "Go for it." And was it Pitocin,
The first thing was
right?
Pitocin,
Pitocin? I don't remember the next one. I don't remember the name of that. But anyways, you gave
then
me the things
Cytotec,
that you're
then
supposed to.
TXA, then
Yeah. Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
things.
All the things. And yeah, and this is where, yeah, the story kind of takes a different turn. But you are like, okay, let's get you inside. So I think at this time, my husband's holding the baby and the bowl of the placenta because my placenta came out pretty much immediately after.
Yes.
Is that your memory?
Yep.
Okay. And you're helping me inside. And so I'm in my bed. My husband's got the baby in the bowl of the placenta. And the cord is like white by that time. And baby's seems to be healthy. Like he's already done his crying and he looks great, like perfect color, like he's doing great. So I'm not really worried about him. And but I do feel like I am leaving the planet. Like I feel like I'm about to pass out, you know. And I do remember telling you but Don, I don't wanna pass out, and I feel like I'm gonna pass out, and you're like, it's okay. You can you can do that if you want to." And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to. I don't want to." And so I don't think I was going to or I would have, but it did feel like I was willing myself to stay, you know, s to stop passing out. And so I don't think that that's possible, but in the moment, it felt like that, and so we made the call to transfer, and, we called the ambulance, and that was a whole story. I really feel like, um, they learned a lot from that experience. I was turns out, their first home birth transfer ever, and so, yeah, that was quite the learning experience for them, and, finally, we go to the hospital. I end up and I feel like I have to say this part because it's definitely, you know, due to what they did or didn't do, what they, should have done. uh, you've had your hand like in my uh, uterus, basically, like putting pressure. And that was the only thing really stopping the bleeding.
It's called bimanual
And they didn't
compression,
really,
and
there
yes,
you go. Yeah.
that is an emergency technique for when we were having
Yeah.
severe hemorrhaging, which you were having,
Right.
which we had given you
Right.
all the meds over and over, giving you an IV, all the
Yeah.
things, and
Okay. I don't have that.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
emergency, and trying to do that while waiting for them to help. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting. And I mean, it wasn't a very positive experience on their end. And like, it was, I mean, on my end from them. And,
It was
but,
misdispatched,
I would,
so there
yes,
was that to begin with.
to start with, yeah. They said,
Yes,
what was it? They
respiratory
said,
distress.
yeah, which is not at all what was going on. And
Nope.
so they had no clue what they were walking into. My, um, my husband gave me, he was trying to give me some chlorophyll water. And like, cause I had chlorophyll, that I like to drink even during pregnancy, but just to help with like, it's a blood builder. Anyways, like I obviously know that like chlorophyll is not going to save my life at this moment. I wasn't even attempting that. But like, he was just giving me that and had a little bit of uh kind of blue maybe or
Yeah, bluish
greenish on my
green.
lips
Yeah.
left over from that. Yeah. And so they were like, is she and so with the wrong call in their mind, they think they're coming to respiratory distress. With my blue on my lips from chlorophyll, they are thinking, "Oh, she's not breathing or something," and it was just crazy, and I'm like, "No, I'm breathing and just need blood. Like, take me to the hospital, please." And, but I really didn't have enough energy to talk, and so I couldn't really even communicate or advocate for myself very well in in the ambulance. I could hear everything they were saying. They would think that I wasn't awake, but they would say, is she awake?" And then I would open my eyes and, like, look at them, like, "Yes," that's me saying yes, and then I would close my eyes again because I'm just like to even open my eyes, it was just too much energy. And so that was probably the scariest part there, is just feeling like I was gonna pass out, and I did not wanna pass out. And so, anyways, we get to oh, yeah, and the other part that they mismanaged was, yeah, they did not apply the intrauterine pressure, and so they just folded up a towel and put it between my legs, and that
And
did
they refused to let me go
absolutely
with
nothing.
you to keep their and now in
Right.
hindsight, Lindsay, I will say for myself as well, like, I learned, I always learn from
Yeah.
every single birth all the time.
True.
But,
Right.
growing, I was more of a what we joke is baby midwife then, I was a younger midwife then, and,
Sure, sure.
now
Yeah.
this is my 3rd year in practice now. But which people would say I'm still a baby midwife, but, I'll
Yeah.
in future, I would not have, well, allowed them to tell me, "No, I can't keep my hand there and to let go, and they'll take care of it."
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
keep trying to get assurance from them that they were gonna do by because I remember asking them, like,
Yeah.
"Okay, well, which one of you is gonna do bimanual then? Because that's what I'm doing."
Yeah.
Because they didn't even understand what I was doing. They're just like, "Why do you have your hand in there?"
Right.
I'm like, "I'm keeping her
Right.
uterus from bleeding anymore." And they're just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
well." And so they didn't understand at
Yeah.
all what I was doing and
Mm.
the concept and all the things. So they just kept
Yeah.
insisting that I had to remove my hand before they would take you on the ambulance. And hindsight, I
I
would be like,
remember
"Nope,
hearing
I'm going in
the
the
whole
ambulance with her."
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they insisted
Yeah.
to me that they would do it. And I finally was like, if this will finally get her to the hospital, let's just go. And
Yeah.
and then find out they just rolled up a towel and put it between your legs. That was pretty disheartening. That was
Yeah.
major
Yeah.
mismanagement.
Right, right. And so, when we get there, um, oh, that was probably the worst part is just I arrive in the trauma room. I have a nurse that I remember from, my first birth with, my daughter, and I was, like, actually excited to see her because I was like, "Oh, somebody I know, good," and I was like I did have enough, energy at that point. I think I had they were giving me IV fluids, I think, by the time I got there. I had had, like, a bag of IV, and so I had a little bit of more life, and so I was able to, like, wave a little bit at her, like, crack somewhat of, like, smile, and, I was like but oh, also, I had no voice because I had roared my baby out of me, and, I was already losing my voice from that, and, yeah, I cannot there's I see people do it all the time. They're able to push their baby out without making a lot of noise. I have to roar, and so it was good for me. I enjoyed doing it that way. But so I really didn't have a voice or energy to speak a voice even if I had it, but I just knew that she was gonna remember me because I remembered her, and I was there for 10 days, so with my first birth, so I remember spending a lot of time with the same nurses and really forming a bond with them. And so anyways, and she just kinda came at me with, like, "What were you thinking?" Just like, they start doing stuff to me, before, uh because, they had you ride separately, they just start already doing things to me without my midwife in there, and I did have enough energy to say, like, "I want my midwife." Like, she 'cause they start asking me all the same questions that on the, ambulance staff had already asked me, and so I'm like, I barely have enough energy to answer them at the time, and so I just was like, "Just talk to my midwife. Just talk to my midwife, she has all the information." And so, by that point, they're just like I think they're just assuming things about what's going on. Understandably, they don't know what's going on, but, and it was they start doing the, manual blood clot removal, and so they did get a giant blood clot out, which, you know, um, that was not fun. It's probably worse than, uh, uh, childbirth for sure. And, they start doing the manual blood clot removal, and they're like, "See, we saved your life." And I'm like, "Thanks for that. I mean, that's great, but, like, maybe it didn't have to be like that if, like, the ambulance staff would have still kept the intrauterine pressure or done anything like they said they were going to do. And so, basically just allowing like a giant place for, uh, uh, blood to pull up and the clots are just sitting there because they weren't there just at the house or you would have seen them, like you would have felt them.
Yeah.
So from the house to the hospital, blood
It's just
clots started
pulling up.
like my blood
They
started clotting. Yeah,
the towel, they were just making a dam.
right,
That's
exactly.
what they
Like
were doing.
it wasn't even it was literally laying. Oh, I can't even say it was like preventing any blood from but like every bump we would hit, I would feel blood just coming out of me because they really didn't have any pressure going on there. It was
Oh, that
horrible.
breaks my heart.
And so I was like, oh, well, it's okay. I mean, I lived to tell the tale.
I am so thankful.
And I don't think I was I really didn't think I was on death's door for that. I mean, I got 2 bags of blood when I got there, and that was enough to turn the tide. So, and that my body accepted those bags of blood, and it was um, uphill from there, I would say. And so, like,
Yeah,
I had immediate energy to even have conversations after I got the 2 bags of blood. And so it was like, that was all I needed, really. And so they remembered all of the complications I had with my first birth, and they were like, we really wanna keep you overnight. You don't have to, but, just to make sure, the blood, um, you know, was accepted by your body and make sure you don't get sepsis and all of this." And I'm like, "Okay, I guess." I didn't really even have that enough energy to, like, fight them on that, and so I was like, "Okay, we'll stay one night, and then we're leaving in the morning." Um, and that's what we did, and it was kinda nice, though, because I got to see a lot of the nurses, and including April, who came by just to see me, and she was so sweet and, gave me, like, a baby blanket she had made and crocheted. She's incredible, and she, was most most of the commentary I got was, "Congrats, you did it." They were not like, the only one that offered her opinion, which was wild that she was even giving it to me, and was, the one that I had gone into the I guess it's called the trauma room, and she was just kind of, like, shaming me right off the bat without knowing what's going on at all, and just like, "You just had a baby," and I'm like, "No, I didn't, like, 2 years ago." She's like, "That's not long enough," and I'm like, "Yes, it is," and she was just and
Mhm.
it was wild that I'm having to have these conversations with you as someone is, like, in between takes of somebody shoving their whole arm inside of me and pulling blood clots out. Like, this is not the time, lady, to tell me,
Yeah,
what you think about my choices. It was just wild. And and then telling everybody about my first birth story. Um, Total strangers to me. I don't know who they are. And she was just like, "Oh, I know her. She uh had a C-section and into my entire history with these complete randos, and I'm like, "What is going on?" So, yeah, it was and at that point, my husband hadn't even made it into the room yet because he had to go all the way around with a brand new baby, and so, yeah, that was wild. That the postpartum experience definitely was like, for a long time, I was just like, "Dang," like, I had to kind of fight the urge of, like, the I failed, even though I just gave birth and had the most beautiful birth experience, laboring, pregnancy, that anyone could wish to have, and, because I had my postpartum complications and experiences at that place, um, that we went to, um, it kind of I was like, "Dang," like, now I feel like, that robbed me of my joy, but it now I feel like it's the total opposite, like, enough time has passed, I've processed enough that, like, now I think about that less. Like, I don't even I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I had to transfer," but, let me tell you about my birth because, like, that was the epic part of the whole day, Um, and now it's like that for me, and I'm glad I'm there, uh, but yeah, it's I love your podcast because I feel like you give women an opportunity to share a story that most people don't want to hear. Most people don't want to hear. Um, like if you're getting ready to give birth, sometimes you're like, let me protect my bubble. I'm only going to hear positive stories, which is totally valid. Like that makes sense to me. And you know, if you've had nothing but like successful, successful, births, um, that went according to plan, let's just say, you're like, well, something must have, you know, something you did was wrong or something. And so it's hard to find a place that you can share, like, hey, I really love this about my birth, but I also this went wrong. It's kind of hard to find a space where you're allowed to share that.
Yeah,
So yeah, thank you for for making a space like that.
absolutely. I love it. Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
we get to share all of it. And we're not
Yeah.
censoring
Yeah.
anything out because it all needs to be shared.
Right.
I understand, like, when we're
Yeah.
having conversations with people sometimes, like, you don't want to
Yeah.
share some of the other stuff because you
Yeah.
you don't wanna give
Yeah.
them, negative feedback, and they need to
Yeah.
hear positive
Exactly.
stories, especially
Exactly.
somebody who's pregnant or expecting to be or
Yeah.
anything like that, but there's a place to really talk raw and talk about, those really hard things that happened as well, and, I think you said earlier,
Yeah.
like, 2 things can be true at once. It can be. I
Yeah.
had the most amazing, beautiful birth, and I had a really rough postpartum period, and
Yeah.
mom
Yeah.
struggled. Like, that's
Yeah.
okay. Like, those 2 things are true,
Yeah.
and you
Mhm.
did an amazing job. You really, you did so much work to set yourself up for success and just mentally preparing. I know you did a lot of mental work preparing ahead of time, and you really worked like communication with your husband on everything, ahead of time, and then listening to your body in the labor, like, you know what, I don't want to go back in the house. I want to
Yeah.
stay here, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
a baby
Yeah. Yeah.
outside and I love it. And
Yeah.
yeah, and being able to do all of that. And then
Yeah.
there was just a little we're actually in control of. We can learn how to
Mhm.
manage, things that come outside, and that's what we do. But in control of it, that's a false like it's you're fooling yourself if you think you really truly are in control of what's happening. But we respond to what's going
Yeah.
on, and yeah, you guys both as a team, I think, handled that situation so beautifully. Like, and I knew going to the hospital was going to be traumatic for you as well because of your
Yeah.
previous birth
Yeah.
and all of that happening. And yeah, it was definitely a learning experience for me as well. Like there's so many things that came
Yeah.
out of that was beautiful, and that's what,
True.
these things, they help we learn and we grow, and they help for
Yeah.
future situations and, like, all types of, things like that. Like, that helps those EMTs who had never responded to a
Yeah.
home birth before. Like that,
Mhm.
I know for sure that they have had some extra training now, due to
Yeah.
your birth that they had not had
Yeah.
before. Same with the hospital staff.
Totally.
And so you really helped set some things up, even though, I'm not happy those things happened to you. It still
Yeah.
made it so that you brought some great, good things out of it for other people, and I'm really
Totally.
thankful for that for you and for the
Me
community,
too,
really.
actually. Well, yeah, yeah, and exactly, and now I feel like maybe the hospital staff see this as an option like a viable option that women are going to continue to seek out, and maybe that'll, yeah, create positive ripples in the home birthing community here. And what was I gonna say? I forget. Oh, yes. Okay. The best part of it all was, you know, um, the doctor who delivered or performed the cesarean on me with my first. I remember. I don't know why I asked him this, but I was just distraught. I think in the moment, and I was just like holding my newborn baby girl, and I'm like, "Do you think I can try for a VBAC on my next one?" And he was so dry. He goes, "Mm, no, not for you. I would not consider that, for you."
Mm.
And I'm like, "Ugh, okay, well," offered 0 explanation as to why. And I think it was at that moment that I decided, if I ever do change my mind and I, do overcome my trauma from this, and I want to have another baby, I'm gonna show him. And so, a little seed was planted, I'll say. And, I don't like being told I can't do something. But, and I obviously, if it wasn't safe to do so, I would change my plan. But, if it was safe to try and it was, then yeah. Uh, Now, will my birth plan in the future, if I have another one, change? Probably, because like, hemorrhaging, is kind of probably makes me more of a risk now. And so, that's to be seen if I ever have another one. So, but
Did you get
yeah,
to see the
so in
doctor?
this,
Tell him you had a
you
VBAC?
got
I
to see
did.
the doctor.
Yeah, that's true.
You did. And so, yeah, that's why I brought that up was because, you have to tell him my birth story because you met with him and, because he actually became a different position.
He
Um,
did, and he, had a really great
yeah,
perspective, and,
yeah,
it was
totally.
really again, these beautiful things coming out of, hard stuff.
Yeah,
It
he
was
was a wonderful doctor
yeah, and
and took really great care of me, and I was almost trauma bonded to him by the end of it, like, I could not be more thankful for him, giving me such excellent care when I had sepsis, like, he was incredible. Um, I have nothing bad to say about him, but,
well, he
yeah,
had
it was
great
just nice for him
things.
to know. I love
Yeah, he got to know
Yeah,
about it, and then he
yeah,
got to
yeah.
actually sit down and talk with me for a while to see how they could help me within the community more, actually, which is a beautiful
Oh,
thing that I don't know that I've
right?
ever had another doctor say to me, or will I ever. So
Right.
it's really beautiful,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
that came from
that's
it,
true.
and yeah, I think that's neat.
Yeah,
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 so many
very
beautiful
neat.
things. How do you think your postpartum was, with him? So you got to get out of the hospital within 24 hours, so that was great.
Yes,
Um,
that was amazing. Yeah, and I remember just being in my bed, just being so grateful, like, "Oh, yes," because I was cooped up for 10 days the first time, and I was just nervous, like, we were gonna go down that path again, and I was like, "No." Anyways, it was amazing, being back in my own bed. My daughter got to, I was still nursing her, and so she was very, emotionally attached, to, Milky's, and she actually spent we had a friend, watching her during the birth, thankfully, and so we didn't have to figure out childcare for her. We just extended our childcare, like, "Hey, bring her to the hospital tonight," because that's where we're going. And, she got to come in while everything was calm, and I'm already set up for the night, and she spent the night with us there and, went home with us, and it was just like nothing happened after that, like, I just got to recover at home, and it was so nice. And of course, I had you coming in, checking in on me. That was huge. Yeah, it was kinda scary the first time around not having that kind of like, you had to go to the hospital, after a few days. You had to put your baby in a car and drive to the hospital. That sucked. And, I didn't have to do that with you. That was incredible. Um, and yeah, we just got to be our new family of 4. And we just yeah, we loved it.
that's
Best
great.
memories,
So
really.
you had a awesome
Yeah.
postpartum then.
Yeah, I did. I ended up having an awesome postpartum, and, I was genuinely so sad when you stopped coming at 6 weeks, so I said, "I'll
Me
have
too.
another baby."
Me too. But I
I know.
remind everybody,
I
you don't have
I
to have a baby to see me.
I know.
But it is
I guess I'll wait.
that does bring up a hard thing. I mean, it's hard on both sides, and I know that too from being the consumer of midwifery as well, and then
Mhm.
being the midwife that especially as you're in your 3rd trimester and you're seeing each other so often, and, you're having these weekly visits and you're talking back and forth about all the things, and then immediately after having the baby, you're seeing each other pretty often, and then it spaces out, and then it spaces out, and then it's, like, done. And it's just like, "Wait, what? Hold on a second. This
Mhm. It's a
person
little
that's been in
abrupt.
my life for, very heavily in my life the last couple months
Yeah.
is now, like, just done." Like, it is
Yeah.
hard because especially where midwifery is so, I feel like, very relationship oriented, and we build these really strong relationships and trust and many times friendships out of that as well, and then to just be like,
Yeah.
"Okay, now I'm done seeing you." It's hard on both.
Yeah.
It definitely
Oh, for sure.
is, and yeah, it's very sad, but as you know, I told you, and I tell most everybody that it's not goodbye, it's not you can't talk to me anymore or see me anymore, it's just I'm no longer, acting as your midwife, now it's a, "Hey," as a mom, "Can I say hi?" Or, "Let's meet up for
Mhm.
coffee." I don't know how many times I've met different people up for coffee who've come and seen you guys, and you guys have come over, and
Yeah.
there's lots of different opportunities, and that's great. But it is interesting how you get so close in that period of time, and then it's like, "Oh, that season is done," and it's kind of passing on, and it's just a big change. So, yeah, I always find it
Totally.
sad.
Yeah. How depressing.
Yeah, a little bit, a
But no,
little
I
bit. There are
totally
tears shed
appreciate.
many times.
Yeah. But I'm lucky that my midwife is so involved and, like, I'm local to you, so, like, are you gonna be there? We're gonna pick up ours your standard order, like, I might see you then.
It's
And,
true.
just things like that. You're so involved in the community just outside of midwifery that I have opportunities to still, stay in touch. But yeah, it's
Yeah, I
nice.
do love that. I absolutely love that too.
Mhm.
Well, is there's anything that you could pass, I mean, your story is so beautiful, and I'm so thankful that you shared. Any last words, anything that you'd like to pass on to anybody listening?
Oh gosh. Um, that Yeah, mostly that, you know, expect the unexpected, but at the same time, expect the best too. Like I had both. I had such a uh, polarizing experience. I had the best, but I'm not saying expect the worst at all. But just if anything goes not to plan, um, that says nothing about you as a person. You're still worthy. You're still, um, you know, you could you good things will still happen. Like it's not
Amen to
it's
that.
not your fault. Like
Yeah.
this does not mean anything about you. It's
Yeah, it's
not
not a
personal.
reflection of you.
And exactly. And there's so much to glean even from like if something does go south. We had so much beautiful um things happen out of what was perceived to be a negative experience for me. Now I feel really empowered by my story that that helped bring change, to
Right.
and maybe better opportunities for women who want to give birth at home and feel validated by whatever birth choice they want to do.
Yeah, that's
So
beautiful.
yeah,
Good.
yeah, that's what I would say.
I love that. Thank you so much. Lindsay, I really appreciate you
Yeah,
coming
thank
and
you.
sharing. Just a joy to see you and share a cup of coffee with you. And
Oh, as always.
yeah, well, we'll see you soon. Thank you for listening. May you be encouraged and strengthened by what you've heard today. Remember, you are dearly loved by your Creator, so be who He created you to be. May you go in peace, friends. Till next time, Shalom.